Barry with ShowBiz Blueprint, and I was so excited to bring this interview to you because the other day I was talking about who am I? You know, who would book me? And I started thinking in my head, who do I know that truly epitomizes the growth, the curve of that question, of answering that question? Michael Carducci is a ShowBiz Blueprint alumni, and I've literally watched him go from, walk around magician. I guess he'll tell the little story a little bit more, but to what he's doing now is amazing. Michael, thanks so much for jumping in here.
Hey, Barry, thank you for having me. It is an honor not only to get to sit with you, but to kind of share this story with anybody who might be on the fence or thinking about making that jump and taking the next step in their career.
I love it. In ShowBiz Blueprint, I'll admit it. I kind of beat people up like, okay, you got that skill.
Yeah.
What is something you care about in life? What's something even bigger than you can imagine? And that's what we do. And how can you use who you are to bridge that gap to provide something to the market that, either doesn't exist, no one's ever even thought about it, or you can create. And what you've done, where I see you in the world right now, I'd love to just hear a little bit about the history, kind of how it grew, the advantages, the openings you saw, and how you jumped in to fill them, and where you are now. And I may interrupt once in a while just to really highlight a few of the things. So, man, anything you want to share about that? Thank you.
Absolutely. By the way, you hit the nail right there on the head. Bigger than you can imagine.
Yeah.
My story starts in the 90s. I was a house magician at TGI Fridays, because... Oh,
my gosh. I'm not sure if that's the bottom rung. It may be the second rung on the showbiz ladder, but that's pretty low towards the bottom. But, yeah.
It was, for me, though, that was like the pinnacle. Like, I'd really achieved something. And, because I tell people, the house magician at TGI Fridays, because, dreams really do come true. And I was working there as a busboy. I was getting paid as a busboy. And one day the general manager said, I don't want you to bus tables anymore. He says, you pretty much didn't anyway. I was a terrible busboy, by the way. He says, I just want you to do magic for the guests. And for me, this was like a dream come true. I was getting paid $6 an hour. I was getting paid $18 a night. I was getting paid to do magic. And this was bigger than anything I could imagine at the time. But the thing was, I was stuck in that mindset. Even years after the fact, I'm going out and doing, $150, $250 shows, and I'm just happy for the work. I'm just happy to get on stages. I had no idea how far you can really go if you're passionate about something, if you work diligently about bringing value to the table. Today, I travel the world. But it's March right now that we're recording this, and I've already flown about 35,000 miles. And, I've got a bunch of international trips booked. I've got clients flying me first class overseas to do events, and I'm on stages every single week doing something I love, doing something I'm passionate about, and making a great living, making a better living than I did when I was a professional software developer, a senior software developer, and bigger than you can imagine.
And that was the big jump. I mean, there's this chasm in the middle, and I know you've shared some of the stories in ShowBiz Blueprint. You've shared it on other places I've heard you talk. And what I want to hear is, like, there was this time when I remember you had a client and he brought you into a gig. I think he found you like on Gig Masters or something.
Gig Masters,
right?
Yeah, Gig Master. I'm still on there. I don't book too many shows through there, but it's, I've got 80 or 90 5-star reviews on there. It's just like a nice little artifact to have online.
But you found an opening. You got this gig. This thing happened on Gig Masters, and then I know you brought sort of, maybe my voice was in the background saying, where else do you fill this gap? What else do you do? What can you offer? What do you see that this client needs? Absolutely. And then that whole question of who am I, who would really hire me, became quite obvious. Could you tell a little bit about that story about the...
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's funny, there's 2 chapters to the story. The first chapter was pre-ShowBiz Blueprint, pre-everything, 2009, 2010. I get a lead, I do a show, that's the end of it. That's how most people in our industry seem to operate. It's like, okay, I got a gig, okay, I did the gig, okay, I got paid, good. And now they're back at zero.
Boom.
And then, but I got a second chance, and not too many people get that. I got a second chance. That client reached out to me a couple of years later and said, hey, would you be willing to do it again? And now we're comparing pre-Barry, showed up, did a show, went home, and I was happy about it. Post ShowBiz Blueprint, I get that same call, and I approached it with an entirely different mindset. First of all, really having a better idea of what my value was. Second, going through the ShowBiz Blueprint, it gave me permission to think and do things that prior I didn't even think was possible. I never in my wildest dreams would I believe I'm doing what I'm doing today. But I went into that relationship with an entire different approach. Excuse me. It was how to bring the maximum value to this relationship.
Totally.
How do I give the maximum value to this, to my client, to their clients, to their customers, and showing up with this different approach, with this different mindset, that's turned into an entire career's worth of work. It was, one show turned into 5, turned into 20, turned into the opportunity to get on stages as a professional speaker. And
that was the interesting part of the story that you were sharing recently that I heard was you had done 5, 10, 20 shows. This guy had you on every one of his tours as a magician. And then he said, what if, and this is the moment, and this is like my arm. I don't have a good enough camera to show, but I'm like goosebumped out. He said to you, what happens if I put you on stage? And you saw this opening.
Yeah. Well, it's like one of the key things that you, I don't want to say drill into us, but emphasize is that we have something unique to bring beyond, our show, which is, I'm doing this piece, I'm doing that piece. I'm stringing these 9 tricks together and I'm going to call this a show. There's more inside of us to put together. And so I absolutely in that moment saw that possibility. Hey, I've got this extensive background as a professional software engineer. I've got this extensive background as a performer. Let's put these together. Let's specialize. And that's what I did.
I think a few days ago on this live training, number one, I was in this position talking about dots. And that was the tightrope between them that you walked. You said, professional software developer, room full of software developers, my magician. How many talks do you have now? I mean, you've been doing this for this company. I mean, you're touring around the world. I know one thing you shared with me about your new position with this group, if that's something you'd like to share. But how many different talks do you have, and how many times have you gotten to perform on this big touring beast that you seized?
Just with this one single opportunity, I think I get on stage. I probably on average in an average year, I give 160 maybe talks a year just with one group. And then that opens doors worldwide. There's one thing I've noticed that, it's just this fortunate place to be. And really the secret, I'm going to talk a little bit about this, that I'm in this really fortunate position, but I'm in this fortunate position because one, I came in with a really consistent attitude of trying to over deliver value, but two, I had shifted that mindset, and that was a really necessary piece to go into it and see the big picture, not just one gig, one and done, one off, and be done with it. But I've got maybe 30 talks now that I give pretty consistently, and it's a couple hundred. But there's one interesting thing about this: the tremendous opportunity is that everybody who speaks in this organization, they are the best in the world, period. And it's funny, I'm going out to India in a few weeks to a very, very big, one of the biggest conferences in the country there. And if you look at all of their headline speakers, the vast, vast majority of them are either current or alumni speakers for this organization. Wow. And it's.
And Michael, what are you doing at that conference in India? Are you doing a breakout session? What are you doing there?
I'm doing a keynote for the entire group in this vast auditorium out there. I'm going to be doing a lot of breakouts, and I think that's about it. I'm going to do 4 or 5 breakouts and a keynote, and the keynote's going to be big. That's the big room, the big audience. It's going to be everybody there. Yeah.
The keynote speech is big. And I heard you're doing this thing in San Jose in June, and it's top shelf. It's what's that one called, and what are you doing there? And you had this funny thing that someone said to you that it's funny. We kind of do this thing, and I say look for these possibilities, and we feel like maybe pushing our way into these things. But I think you got a glimpse of somebody else's perspective about what you're doing, which kind of went, oh, I didn't even realize how big it had gotten.
Oh my goodness! So one of the most tenured speakers in this group, deep veteran, amazing speaker, passionate guy, just super engaging. you know, he's one of the speakers that I look up to all of them, but he's one that, you know, he's one of the really higher profile folks. And, you know, when he talks, you listen. And I remember we sit down, we're having lunch at this event, and he comes up to me and says, "Hey, I saw you were doing a keynote at the SA Con." And I said, yeah, that's happening. I'm pretty excited about it. And he says, "You're doing a keynote there?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Wow." Of course, then he asks, "Are you nervous?" And I said, "No, I get up on stages every week." He says, "Yeah, this is different." He tells me all about this, just what kind of platform it really is. And, you know, it's one of those sort of breakout moments.
Yeah, that outside perspective of who you are. I mean, what do we see? We see the person in the mirror, and we see us through our own eyes where all the thoughts are behind us. That's an outside perspective that's pretty cool. I'm going to check in with you after you do that. I definitely want to hear about that, and I know you'll rock it. So you guys, when I talk about, you know, who would ever book me or who am I to be doing this, Michael is a guy who epitomizes that jump. His story is amazing, and his story is what happens when we see ourselves as bigger than what our history says we are, or even what our present says we are. That the history, the present does not have to equal the future. Hey man, thank you so much 1,000 times for sharing your story. It's exciting to get to hear it first person. Oh,
it's my pleasure. And if I could leave on one note, that it's so important to let go of your limiting beliefs, because we all have them. You know, we all have this ceiling that whether we see it or not, you know, we've placed it there. And the biggest takeaway I got from sitting through the ShowBiz Blueprint was I completely let go of all of those limiting beliefs, because, you know, through your coaching, through the community, and just seeing what other people are doing. And that's what's holding us back more than anything. It's not we need more leads. It's not we need this. We need a new trick. We need a new piece, whatever. It's those limiting beliefs. And I want to thank you, Barry, for what you've produced and the gift that you've given to me of letting go of that and seeing my wildest dreams come true. Today I travel the world. I get to travel with my wife, and we're living this incredible life. Thank you.
Dude, blow me away, man. Thank you so much. You guys, in the next live training, I'm going to be talking about what clients really want. And that Michael could be the poster for that one, seeing what the clients really want and finding a way to over deliver it. Thanks so much. See you in live workshop 2. Bye-bye.